So when this season of the IPL began, maybe even before that, during the time of the auction, a lot of people were talking about how the prices for the players were ballooning, and it was mind-boggling that first Pat Cummins went for 20.5 crore, and then minutes later, Mitchell Starc went for 24.75 crore. So the numbers are still mind-boggling now, but as we head into the final of the IPL, it's coincidence that these two men are now up against each other. I mean, it's purely coincidence, but it's also a good story, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so so these two will take on each other at the final, and these two teams have sort of, we also spoke about this in the last episode, they've kind of redefined top order batting this season, and this has been the season that has been the most hard hitting of all in the 70 years of the IPL. So do you think it sort of encapsulates this whole season, that is the fact that these two teams have made it to the final?
Yeah, I think, look, I mean, if you remember, Anirudh, when the season started and we discussed some of the teams that could make, or the teams that would make the playoffs, we were not sure who will make the final. So my pick, if I remember correctly, were Mumbai and Chennai, which both flopped, and Rajasthan Royals and Sunrisers Hyderabad. And whoever I spoke to at that point in time, Sunrisers Hyderabad, they were a little skeptical, not a little skeptical, very skeptical, because they had not had a great track record apart from the second season, which they had won way back in 2009 under a different name and different ownership. Rajasthan Royals, I think, have been amongst the most talented team over the last maybe 5, 6 years, but also the most disappointing in terms of results when it comes to the business end of the tournament, as we saw even this year. You know, a team which looked so good, three fourths of the tournament was completed, suddenly kind of tapered off, and then they lost to Sunrisers Hyderabad. So I think it's only just, there's a lot of cricketing logic that KKR and Sunrisers Hyderabad should meet in the final, because at the playoff stage they were number one and number two. And you mentioned about Pat Cummins and Mitchell Starc, these two Aussies who were the buzz, all the buzz at the time of the auction, being there to be in the final, facing each other, squaring up to each other. Otherwise, they're mates, as we know. And I think you're right in actually having picked out these, because I think they have a massive role to play in tomorrow's final. One is as a bowler and a captain. Then look at the spectacular record that Pat Cummins has traversed as a captain in the last couple of years. You know, he's been part of he was the World Test Championship captain when Australia won that. ODI World Cup, they won that. He was the captain now in the IPL final. If he wins this, it would be a hat trick of wins, which is unprecedented. I don't think even MS Dhoni has that kind of a record. So, and then Mitchell Starc. I just want to put it into perspective. In the qualifier, when KKR beat Sunrisers Hyderabad, it was Mitchell Starc opening burst which kind of set up the win for them. So I think that, there are so many players and so many things that one can talk about. Sunil Narayan, Abhishek Sharma, Travis Head, etc., etc. But I think these two guys are going to be the focus of a lot of attention tomorrow.
So I also wanted to talk about the journeys of these two teams this season. So as for Sunrisers, they've changed their kit. They brought in a World Cup winning captain, and this is, I think, the third combination of coach and captain they've tried in the past few years. We had Kane Williamson and Tom Moody. We had Brian Lara and Aidan Markram, and now we've sort of settled on Pat Cummins and Daniel Vittori. The last time this franchise tasted success was in 2016, that spectacular season where Virat Kohli hit 973, but David Warner was close by and ended up winning the season. But they haven't been as successful since then. And then for the other side, for KKR, I think the main focus point this season has been that they brought back their most successful captain, Gautam Gambhir, as a mentor now, and all of a sudden things seems to be back in place like they were when he left. So what are you expecting from the final now?
It's interesting you brought up this mentorship or the coaches issue. I mean, my mistake, my bad that 2016 actually, Hyderabad did win, not just
Yeah.
in 2009. So this is going to be, well, a comeback again for them. Between 2009 and 2016, they didn't win, and then after that, they haven't won subsequently. So it's been a long while. But it's there's been so much talk about coaches, and more so now because the Indian cricket team is looking for a coach. The BCCI is looking for a coach for its senior team, and all kinds of names are being tossed around, including Justin Langer, Ricky Ponting, Gautam Gambhir, there's VVS Lakshman, who's been talked about. And then there are the lesser known guys, like when I say lesser known, I mean it's only relatively speaking. Daniel Vettori, who's been so much in the background, we haven't seen too much of him even in the public space. Even the camera doesn't focus too much on him when Hyderabad is playing. So maybe he likes it that way. But the coaches have a big role to play, and I think Gambhir's hand in the way KKR has performed this season is quite evident. It's a franchise that he knows very well. He's been with them for a long time as a captain and as a player, and then he's come back. So he knows the ethos, the culture of that dugout. For uh, for Dan Vittori, perhaps it was a little different, but he's made a mark for himself. And remember, I always used to wonder, Sunrisers Hyderabad was always packed with a lot of big stars in the support staff, so to speak. There would be Tom Moody, there would be Lakshman, there would be Mutaya Muralitharan, then there's Brian Lara. And you would wonder that, so many people, so many great names, and why is it not gelling? So my understanding is that you don't need a plethora of big names around to make for a great team. You need somebody who's clear cut in his thinking from a coach's point of view, and most importantly, who works out a great rapport with the captain very early, maybe even before the tournament begins, and does not have these, it's not a tug and pull, not a confrontational kind of a relationship, I think. And that's what is becoming clear. At least we've seen that happen even with Chennai Super Kings, Stephen Fleming and Dhoni, for years on end. They enjoyed a fantastic rapport, and that's why they're so successful. So I think if you ask me, there's no template as to which coach will succeed, but I think the clear cut one is clarity of thought, understanding resources availability, and gelling extremely well with the captain.
Yeah. So lastly, I'll just like to end with that this has been a great IPL season, and it's been great doing the series with you. And we'll bring you one more episode of the IPL, which is the review of the final, and then we get back to our regular programming covering all sorts of sports, including whether Gautam Gambhir will eventually become head coach of India. So yeah, so that's it for this episode of Sports Room. We'll see you next time.